Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. Kellen Rhodes stared at the three monitors arranged across his cramped desk, code streaming down the screens like digital rain. The apartment felt smaller tonight. Maybe it was the pile of unpaid bills stacked next to his coffee mug, or maybe it was the sound of his upstairs neighbor's television bleeding through the thin walls. His phone buzzed. Mom. Kellen. Honey, we need to talk. He saved his work. What's up? Your father and I are worried. Camden stopped by today with news about his promotion. He's making 6 figures now, you know? 6 figures, Kellen. Gloria Rhodes had perfected the art of praise disguised as concern. Kellen could picture her in their old kitchen, probably reorganizing the spice rack while she talked, making sure everything looked perfect for whoever might drop by. That's great for Camden. He bought that house on Maple Street. You remember the blue one with the big front porch? 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, granite countertops. The Lexus is paid off too. Kellen rubbed his temples. Mom, I'm working. That's just it, honey. This computer thing you're doing, when does it become a real job? Maris is finishing nursing school soon. She's going to want stability, security, the computer thing. His logistics platform had the potential to revolutionize freight routing for mid-sized companies. He'd spent 2 years building the foundation, testing algorithms, proving the concept. But to his mother, it was just another hobby. I have clients. I'm making money. Freelancing isn't a career, Kellen. It's what college kids do between real jobs. Vernon's voice rumbled in the background. Tell him about the HVAC position. Your father says Mike Patterson is looking for someone to run the office side of his heating business. Good benefits, steady hours. You're smart with numbers. I'm not interested in running an HVAC office. But stable work. Real work. Camden thinks. What does Camden think? The silence stretched. Then Gloria's voice, carefully neutral. He thinks you might be afraid of growing up. Kellen closed his eyes. Camden. Always Camden. When they were kids, Camden made honor roll while Kellen built robots from spare electronics. Camden played varsity baseball while Kellen taught himself programming languages. Camden dated the homecoming queen while Kellen spent weekends in computer labs. And now Camden was a pharmacist with a house and a Lexus and their parents' respect. I need to go, Mom. Kellen, we just want what's best. He hung up. Maris knocked on his door an hour later. She used her key but knocked anyway, a habit that started when things between them began to feel different. Hey. She set down her nursing textbooks and looked around the apartment. Her gaze lingered on the stack of bills. Hey, how was clinicals? Long, exhausting. She sat on the edge of his bed, still in her scrubs. Your mom called me today. Kellen's hands stopped moving across the keyboard. What did she say? She's worried about you. About us. And what did you tell her? Maris pulled her knees up, hugging them. I told her we're fine. Are we? She didn't answer right away. That was new, too. 6 months ago, Maris would have laughed and kissed him and told him not to be ridiculous. Now, she measured her words like medication doses. Kellen, I love you. You know that. But sometimes I wonder if we want the same things. What do you want? I want to know that 5 years from now, we'll be able to afford a house. Maybe start a family. I want to know that your startup isn't going to crash and leave us with nothing. And you think Camden's way is better. Her face flushed. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She stood up, grabbing her textbooks. I should go. I have an exam tomorrow. At the door, she turned back. Your family loves you, Kellen. They just want to see you succeed. After she left, Kellen stared at his reflection in the black computer screen. 27 years old, living in a studio apartment that smelled like the Chinese restaurant downstairs. Dating a woman who looked at him like he was a math problem she couldn't solve. But his code was clean. His algorithms were elegant. And his platform was going to work. 3 weeks later, Kellen found the first crack. He came home from a client meeting to find Maris in his kitchen. Phone pressed to her ear. She was laughing at something, the kind of laugh she used to save for him. No, I know, right? He's so funny. She saw him and straightened. I have to go. Talk to you later. Who was that? Camden. He was telling me about his trip to Kansas City. Kellen opened his laptop. Since when do you and Camden talk? Since your parents invited me to dinner last week. While you were working, you went to dinner at my parents' house without me. Maris sat across from him, her hands folded on the table. Your mom called. She said they wanted to get to know me better. You've been so busy with your platform. You could have asked me to come. I did. You said you had a deadline. He remembered. A potential client had wanted a demo by Friday. He'd worked until 3 in the morning, making sure everything was perfect. What did they talk about? The usual. Your mom, show me Camden's new place. It's really nice, Kellen. Hardwood floors, big kitchen, fenced yard. He's thinking about getting a dog. Kellen kept typing, but the words on his screen blurred together. Your parents think he'd make a good father someday. His fingers stopped moving. They didn't mean anything by it, Maris said quickly. They were just talking about the future, about what they want for their sons. What do they want from me? She was quiet for a long moment. They want you to be realistic. The client meeting the next week went perfectly. The logistics company loved his platform, signed a 6-month contract, and talked about expansion opportunities. Kellen drove home with the radio turned up, already planning how to use the revenue to improve his servers. Maris wasn't home. Her textbooks were gone, and her nursing uniform wasn't hanging in the closet that he called her. Voicemail, he waited until midnight, then fell asleep on the couch with his phone in his hand. She came back 2 days later with red eyes and a suitcase. We need to talk. Kellen sat on the bed they'd shared for 3 years and watched her pack the rest of her clothes. I can't do this anymore, she said without looking at him. The uncertainty, the fighting, the way your family looks at me like I'm making a mistake. My family doesn't matter. They do to you, and they matter to me. She folded her scrubs carefully, like she was buying time. Camden's he's been a good friend. When I needed someone to talk to, something cold settled in Kellen's stomach. How good a friend. He cares about me, about my future. He thinks I deserve better than watching someone chase dreams that might never happen. And what do you think? She finally looked at him. I think he's right. Kellen nodded slowly. So this is about money. This is about partnership, about building something together instead of hoping something works out. I'm building something. You're building software. He's building a life. She zipped up her suitcase. I'm sorry, Kellen. I really am. After she left, Kellen sat in the silence for exactly 10 minutes. Then he opened his laptop and got back to work. 2 weeks later, Camden posted engagement photos on social media. Maris in a blue dress, smiling at the camera while Camden kissed her cheek. The ring caught the light like a small star. Kellen deleted every social media account he had. Then he opened a new document and started writing his resignation letter to his freelance clients. The Greyhound bus smelled like disinfectant and broken dreams. Kellen sat in the back with his laptop bag and a single duffel of clothes, watching Missouri disappear through the dirty window that he'd sold everything else. The furniture went to a college kid for $200. His car went to a dealer for enough money to cover the bus ticket and first month's rent on a couch in Austin. Eli Barrett met him at the station. They'd connected through a forum for electronics repair, and Eli had offered crash space to anyone serious about starting over. You look like hell, Eli said, loading Kellen's bag into a beat-up Honda. When's the last time you ate? Yesterday. Maybe. We'll fix that. Eli's apartment was above his repair shop in East Austin. The living room doubled as a workspace, circuit boards and soldering irons covering every surface. A military flag hung next to a purple heart in a frame. Couch pulls out, Eli said, clearing space. Rent is $200 a month plus groceries. I don't do drama, drugs, or whining. You work hard, pay your bills, we'll get along fine. I work hard. What happened in Missouri? Kellen set down his laptop bag. My family thought I wasn't good enough. My girlfriend agreed. My brother took her. Eli studied him for a moment. And now I prove them wrong. Good. Revenge is a hell of a motivator, long as you channel it right. That night, Kellen lay on the pull-out couch and stared at the ceiling. Traffic hummed outside. Eli's shop sign buzzed and clicked in the window that he opened his laptop and started building Logicin from scratch. By morning, he had the framework mapped out. By the end of the week, he had working prototypes. By the end of the month, he had his first Austin client. Eli would find him at the kitchen table at 5 a.m., typing code with a cup of black coffee steaming beside his laptop. You sleep at all? Sleep is overrated. So, is burning out before you get started. But Kellen wasn't burning out. He was burning clean. Every line of code was another step away from the cramped apartment in Missouri, another step away from his mother's disappointed sighs and his father's lectures about real work, another step away from Camden and Maris and their perfect engagement photos. 6 months later, he pitched Logicin to his first angel investor. The man listened to Kellen's presentation, asked 3 questions, and wrote a check for $50,000. "You've got something here," the investor said, "but you need more than software. You need to understand the business." Kellen spent the next year learning everything about logistics, transportation, and supply chain management. He visited warehouses, rode in delivery trucks, and talked to drivers who'd been moving freight longer than he'd been alive. Then he hired Talia Vega. She walked into his office wearing jeans and a t-shirt, carrying a laptop that looked like it had survived a war. "I heard you're building something that's supposed to disrupt freight routing," she said without preamble. "I want to see it." Kellen showed her the platform. Talia asked questions that made his head spin, poked holes in his algorithms, and found 3 optimization opportunities he'd missed. "Why do you want to work here?" he asked. "Because my last company fired me for being right about their system flaws. Then they used my ideas anyway and took credit." She closed her laptop. "I'm tired of working for people who think innovation means copying someone else's homework. What's your salary requirement?" "Equity. I want a piece of whatever we build." Kellen hired her that afternoon. By the end of his second year in Austin, Logicin had 12 employees and clients in 6 states. Kellen moved out of Eli's place into a small house near downtown. Nothing fancy, but it was his. He never posted photos online, never gave interviews, never celebrated publicly. But he remembered every slight, every doubt, every moment his family had made him feel small. And he started buying Missouri real estate through a shell company he'd created for tax purposes. 5 years after leaving Missouri, Kellen Rhodes owned a company worth $12 million. He stood in the Logicin headquarters, watching Talia present quarterly numbers to their biggest client. The office buzzed with quiet efficiency. 26 employees, 3 floors of a downtown Austin building, and client contracts that stretch from California to North Carolina. "Regional efficiency is up 37%, Talia was saying. "Average delivery times decreased by 2 full days, and fuel costs dropped 18% across your entire network." The client, a Texas-based trucking company, nodded along with the presentation. Their CEO had flown in from Dallas specifically to discuss expansion. "We want to roll this out nationwide," the CEO said. "How quickly can you scale?" Kellen stepped forward. 6 months for infrastructure, 12 months for full implementation. "What about competitors?" "We don't have any. Not like this." It was true. Logicin's AI-powered routing system learned from every shipment, every delay, every optimization. While other companies offered static software, Kellen had built something that got smarter every day. After the client left, Talia found Kellen in his office, staring at spreadsheets. "Good meeting," she said. "They'll sign. You don't sound excited." Kellen looked up from his screen. Talia had been his CTO for 4 years now, and she'd learned to read his moods better than anyone. "I'm not building this for excitement." "What are you building it for?" He turned back to his computer. Results. That evening, Kellen drove to Eli's shop. The old mechanic was closing up, wiping grease from his hands with a red rag. "Haven't seen you in a while," Eli said. "Business keeping you busy?" "Something like that." They sat on the shop's front steps, watching East Austin traffic crawl by. The neighborhood had changed since Kellen first arrived. Coffee shops and boutiques replacing auto repair shops and convenience stores. "You ever think about going back?" Eli asked. "To Missouri, to see how things turned out for them." Kellen had been thinking about it more lately. Not because he missed home, but because he was curious. Camden will be 36 now. Maris will be 31. They've been married for 6 years. "I get updates," Kellen said. "Updates. Property records are public. Business licenses. Court filings." Eli raised an eyebrow. "You've been checking up on them." "I've been keeping informed." Camden had opened 3 supplement stores in the past 2 years, all financed with loans using his house as collateral. The businesses showed revenue, but thin profits. He'd also applied for 2 credit line extensions in the past 6 months. "Any particular reason?" Kellen stood up. I should go. Kellen. Eli's voice was serious. Don't let the past poison what you've built. The past isn't poison. It's fuel. Back home, Kellen opened his laptop and pulled up the Missouri property database. His shell company, Meridian Holdings, now owns 17 properties in Jefferson and the surrounding area. Small investments, mostly. A strip mall here, a warehouse there. Nothing big enough to attract attention. But together, they formed a web. He opened another window and searched for Camden Roads, Pharmacist, Missouri. Nothing recent. Then he tried Camden Roads Supplements, Jefferson, Missouri. That brought results. A local newspaper article from 3 months ago. Local entrepreneur expands health business. A photo showed Camden cutting a ribbon outside his newest store. He looked older, softer around the middle, still smiling for the camera, but something about his eyes seemed tired. Maris stood beside him in the photo, holding a little girl who must be their daughter. Sophie, 5 years old according to the caption. Kellen studied Maris's face. She looked polished, professional. The smile was perfect, but didn't reach her eyes either. He closed the laptop and went to bed. The next morning, Talia knocked on his office door. There's someone here to see you. A woman stood in the lobby, tall and confident, wearing a sharp business suit. Dark hair pulled back, intelligent eyes that took in everything without seeming to stare. Noah Sterling, she said, extending her hand. Arcadia Build. Kellen knew the name. Sustainable construction, high-end commercial projects, based out of Houston with expansion plans across the South. What can I do for you, Ms. Sterling? I have a proposition. My company is planning a major logistics hub in Missouri. We need a partner who understands both technology and transportation. Missouri, Jefferson County area. Good highway access, proximity to major cities, favorable local government. She smiled. I've been researching your company for 6 months. Logison is exactly what we need. They talked for 2 hours. Noah Sterling was sharp, direct, and clearly successful. Her vision for the logistics hub was ambitious but realistic. A $50 million project that would create hundreds of jobs and position Arcadia Build as a major player in Midwest development. Why me? Kellen asked. There are bigger logistics companies. Bigger, yes. Better, no. And none of them have your understanding of regional efficiency. She leaned forward. I don't want a vendor, Mr. Rhodes. I want a partner. What kind of partnership? Joint venture. 50-50 split on the logistics operation. Arcadia Build handles construction and development. Logison handles the technology and systems integration. Kellen was quiet for a long moment. I need to visit the site. Meet with local officials. Of course. I can arrange meetings next week. I'm from Missouri, originally. I know. He looked at her sharply. You research my background? I research all my potential partners. You left Jefferson 6 years ago to start this company. No family or business connections back there now. She tilted her head. Is that a problem? No, it's not a problem. They shook hands on the preliminary agreement that afternoon. Camden Rhodes stood in his empty supplement store, staring at the eviction notice taped to the window. 3 months behind on rent. The landlord had been patient, but patience didn't pay mortgages. Daddy, are we moving again? Sophie tugged at his pants leg, clutching a coloring book. 5 years old and already used to instability. No, sweetheart. Daddy's just checking on the store. But they might be moving. The house was leveraged to the limit, and 2 of his 3 stores were failing. The third one broke, even on good months. On bad months, it bled money like a severed artery. His phone buzzed. Another creditor. Camden? It's Mike from First National. We need to talk about your line of credit. What about it? You're 90 days past due on the minimum payment. We need to discuss payment arrangements. Camden closed his eyes. How much time do I have? Come in tomorrow. We'll figure something out. But there wasn't anything to figure out. He'd borrowed against everything he owned to keep the businesses afloat. The gambling had started small, just weekend poker games with other business owners. Then online sports betting. Then daily fantasy leagues that he'd convinced himself he could win back what he'd lost. That one big score would solve everything. Instead, he'd dug the hole deeper. Camden. Maris's voice called from the car. Sophie's getting restless. He locked up the store and walked back to their Lexus. The car was 4 years old now, and the payments were behind too. How bad is it? Maris asked when they got home. Sophie ran to her room to play with her toys, leaving them alone in the kitchen. Bad. How bad? Camden sat down at the table, head in his hands. We might lose the house. Maris was quiet for a long time. The stores, 2 of them are closing. The third might make it if I can restructure the loans. The credit cards, maxed out. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at their backyard. The yard Camden had been so proud of, with its professional landscaping and cedar fence. There's something else, he said. I've been gambling. Her shoulders tensed. How much? 15,000. Maybe 20. Maybe 23,000. She turned around, and her face was stone. $23,000. I can stop. I have stopped. But the debt, how long? How long what? How long have you been lying to me? Camden couldn't meet her eyes. 2 years. Maris sat down across from him. When she spoke, her voice was controlled, professional. The voice she used at the clinic when delivering bad news. We need to sell the house. Maris, we sell the house, pay off what we can, and start over. Smaller place, smaller payments. You find a real job, not these businesses that are bleeding us dry. I can fix this. No, you can't, and I won't let you drag Sophie down with you. That night, Camden lay awake listening to Maris breathe beside him. She'd been distant for months, working longer hours at the clinic, taking extra shifts. He'd assumed it was about money, about stress, but maybe it was about more than that. He'd watched his parents fawn over Kellen's early success before everything went wrong. Watched them praise his stability while questioning Kellen's dreams. Now Kellen was gone, and Camden's stability was crumbling. His phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Corporate event opportunity. High-end networking. Interest in Missouri investment partnerships. Contact Arcadia Build Events for details. Camden stared at the message. Investment partnerships. Maybe there was still a way out. He forwarded the text to Maris. What do you think? She read it and shrugged. Can't hurt to try. The Arcadia Build Corporate Gala was the kind of event Camden had dreamed about when he first started his businesses. High ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and people in expensive clothes discussing million-dollar deals. He and Maris had borrowed formal wear from friends, spent money they didn't have on a babysitter, and driven 3 hours to Austin hoping to find investors who might save their sinking ship. This is beautiful, Maris whispered, looking around the ballroom. Camden straightened his tie and tried to project confidence. The invitation had been vague about the host, just mentioning a major announcement about Missouri development projects. Gloria and Vernon Rhodes stood near the bar, looking uncomfortable in their dress clothes. They'd receive an invitation too, probably because Vernon's HVAC business was still listed as a Jefferson contractor. What are you two doing here? Vernon asked when Camden and Maris approached. Same as you, I assume. Looking for business opportunities. Gloria kissed Sophie on the cheek. Where's my granddaughter tonight? Babysitter, Maris said. We couldn't pass up this kind of networking opportunity. A server offered champagne from a silver tray. Camden took a glass and tried to calculate how much each sip cost. Probably more than he'd made in profit last month. Ladies and gentlemen, a voice said over the sound system. Please welcome our host for this evening. Arcadia Build CEO, Noah Sterling, and Logison founder Kellen Rhodes. Camden's champagne glass slipped from his hand. Kellen walked onto the small stage, wearing a black suit that fit perfectly. His hair was shorter, styled professionally. He looked older, more confident. Successful. Next to him, a striking woman in her 30s smiled at the crowd. She radiated authority, the kind of presence that commanded attention without demanding it. Thank you all for joining us tonight, Noah said into the microphone. We're here to announce an exciting partnership between Arcadia Build and Logison that will bring innovative logistics solutions to Missouri. Camden couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Beside him, Maris had gone pale, and his parents stood frozen like deer in headlights. My partner has some personal history with the Jefferson area, Noah continued, so this project has special meaning for both of us. Kellen stepped up to the microphone. His voice was calm, controlled. 6 years ago, I left Missouri with nothing but a laptop and an idea. Tonight, I'm announcing our return. He looked directly at Camden's family. I want to thank everyone who believed in me, who supported my vision, and who taught me the value of hard work and determination. His smile was cold as winter steel. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to someone is being told they're not good enough. It clarifies priorities. Camden felt Maris's hand slip into his, her fingers ice cold. Our new logistics hub will create 500 jobs in Jefferson County, Kellen continued. We've already begun acquiring properties and building partnerships with local businesses. This project represents a $60 million investment in the community that raised me. The crowd applauded. Camden's parents clapped mechanically, their faces blank with shock. Arcadia Build and Logison are committed to supporting local enterprises, Noah said, taking back the microphone. We believe in growing together with the communities we serve. After the presentation, people mingled and discussed business opportunities. Camden stood in the same spot, watching Kellen work the room like he'd been born to it. Camden. He turned. Kellen stood 3 feet away, hands in his pockets. Kellen, I see the family finally decided to support my business. Camden's mouth was dry. Congratulations. This is impressive. Thank you. I hear you've been expanding, too. 3 stores now. You've been keeping track. Jefferson's a small town. Word travels. Maris stepped forward. Hello, Kellen. Maris. She looked different than he remembered. Older, more polished, but tired around the eyes. This is quite a success story, she said. You should be proud. I am. The silence stretched between them. Around the ballroom, people continued their conversations, unaware of the tension crackling in their small circle. Well, Camden said finally, we should let you get back to your guests. Of course. Enjoy the evening. Kellen started to walk away, then turned back. Camden? Give my regards to Sophie. I hear she's beautiful. Camden felt something cold settle in his stomach. How do you know about Sophie? But Kellen had already disappeared into the crowd. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by certified mail to Camden's failing supplement store. Official letterhead, legal language, and a notice that made his hands shake as he read it. Meridian Holdings, LLC hereby notifies you that the lease agreement for 247 Commerce Street will not be renewed upon expiration. Tenant must vacate premises by... Camden called the landlord immediately. Jim, it's Camden Rhodes. I got this letter about my lease. Sorry, Camden. New ownership took over last month. They're redeveloping the whole strip. New ownership, some investment company out of Texas. Paid cash, closed in 2 weeks. They're not renewing any of the current leases. Camden hung up and stared at the letter. Meridian Holdings. He'd never heard the name before. His phone rang. Mr. Rhodes? This is Janet Williams at First National Bank. We need to discuss your loan obligations. I was going to call you this week. I'm afraid the situation has become urgent. We've received notice that your primary collateral property may be subject to foreclosure proceedings. What are you talking about? Your business lease has been terminated. That affects the value of your collateral and triggers acceleration clauses in your loan agreements. Camden felt the world tilt sideways. What does that mean? It means we need immediate payment of outstanding balances. All of them. Vernon Rhodes got the call that afternoon. His HVAC business had operated out of the same warehouse for 15 years, but the property had been sold to a development company. They want us out in 30 days, Vernon told Gloria over dinner. Offered to pay moving expenses, but the new location they suggested cost twice what we're paying now. Who bought it? Some outfit called Meridian Holdings. Never heard of them. Gloria set down her fork. Camden got the same letter today. Different property, same company. They looked at each other across the table, the pieces clicking together like a machine they didn't understand. Call Kellen, Gloria said quietly. What would I say? Ask him if he knows anything about Meridian Holdings. Vernon dialed the number they had for Kellen's old apartment in Missouri. Disconnected. They didn't have his current contact information. The medical clinic where Maris worked. The office manager called an emergency staff meeting. I've just been informed that our building has been sold, Dr. Patterson announced. The new owners are terminating our lease. When? Maris asked. End of the month. They're offering relocation assistance, but the comparable properties they've suggested are either too small or too expensive. After the meeting, Mara sat in her car in the parking lot and called Camden. "It's happening to me too," she said. "Same company, Meridian Holdings. This isn't a coincidence." "No, it's not." That evening, Camden drove to his parents' house. He found them in the living room, surrounded by financial paperwork. "How bad is it?" he asked. "Bad," Vernon said. "If we have to relocate the business and pay moving costs, we'll have to lay off half our employees. Maybe shut down entirely. And my loans are all tied to the business properties," Camden said. "If I can't restructure the house, we'll lose everything." Gloria looked up from a stack of bills. "This is about Kellen." "We don't know that." "Then explain Meridian Holdings. Explain why 3 separate properties, all connected to our family, all get sold to the same mystery company in the same week." Camden sat down heavily in his father's old recliner. He wouldn't do this, wouldn't he? The question hung in the air like smoke. "What did we do to him?" Vernon asked quietly. "We told him the truth," Gloria said, but her voice lacked conviction. "We tried to help him be realistic. We chose Camden over him," Vernon said. "At every opportunity, every conversation, every family dinner, Camden was the responsible one. Camden was the easy one." Maris arrived an hour later, having dropped Sophie off at her sister's house. She sat on the couch beside Camden and took his hand. "I tried calling Lodgeson," she said. "They wouldn't put me through to Kellen." "What did you tell them?" "That was a family matter. The receptionist said Mr. Rhodes doesn't take personal calls at the office." Camden laughed bitterly. "Mr. Rhodes. When did my little brother become Mr. Rhodes?" "When we stopped believing in him," Gloria said. The Jefferson County Gazette ran the story on Thursday. Local businesses face closure as development company reshapes downtown. The article was professionally written, factual, and devastating. It detailed the systematic acquisition of properties by Meridian Holdings, the impact on local businesses, and the broader implications for the community. What it didn't mention was the second wave of revelations that came that same week, that Camden's credit lines were called in by banks that cited changing risk assessments and restructured lending priorities. His remaining supplement store lost its supplier when the distribution company discovered irregularities in his payment history. Vernon's HVAC business faced inspection from the state licensing board after someone filed a complaint about improperly filed paperwork. The complaint was legitimate. Vernon had cut corners on administrative requirements to save money. Maris learned that her nursing license was under review following an anonymous report about a patient medication error from 6 months ago. The error had been minor and properly documented, but the investigation process would take weeks. All perfectly legal, all carefully orchestrated. Camden sat in his empty store, surrounded by bare shelves and cardboard boxes. The eviction notice had been replaced by a for lease sign in the window. His phone rang. Unknown number. "Camden." He recognized the voice immediately. "Kellen, I heard about your recent difficulties. I wanted to express my concern." "Your concern?" "Business can be challenging, especially when you're undercapitalized and overleveraged." Camden closed his eyes. "Why are you doing this?" "I'm not doing anything. I'm building a logistics hub in Jefferson County. Creating jobs. Investing in the community. You're destroying us. I'm pursuing legitimate business opportunities. If that affects your ventures, I'm sorry to hear it." The line was quiet for a moment. "You took everything from me," Kellen said finally. "My family's respect. My girlfriend. My place in the world I grew up in. We didn't take anything. You left. I left because staying meant accepting that I wasn't good enough. That Camden was better. That Camden deserved more." "Kellen, you married her 6 months after she left me." 6 months? How long were you planning that, Camden? How long were you working on her before she moved out?" Camden couldn't answer. "I spent 6 years building something from nothing. Learning, growing, becoming the kind of person who could create real value in the world." Kellen's voice was perfectly calm. "And now I'm using those skills to solve a problem." "What problem?" "The problem of people who mistake luck for merit, who mistake inheritance for achievement, who mistake being chosen for being worthy. This isn't fair. Neither was your wedding." The line went dead. Camden stared at his phone for a long time, then called Maris. "He knows," he said when she answered. "Knows what? About us. About how it started." Maris was quiet for so long Camden thought the call had dropped. "How long have you known?" she asked finally. "Known what?" "That I loved him. That I never stopped loving him." Camden felt something break inside his chest. "Since the beginning. I always knew." "Then why did you marry me?" "Because I wanted what he had. Because taking it felt like winning. And now—" Camden looked around his empty store, at the boxes containing the remnants of his failed dreams. Now he's winning. The Eli Barrett STEM Academy opened on a Saturday morning in October, with a ceremony attended by local officials, state representatives, and 3 television news crews. Kellen stood at the podium in Jefferson County's old courthouse square, looking out at a crowd of families and children. Behind him, the ribbon stretched across the entrance to what had once been Camden's largest supplement store. "Education is investment," he said into the microphone. "Investment in people, in ideas, in the future we want to build together." The academy would serve 200 students annually, providing advanced mathematics, computer science, and engineering programs to kids from low-income families. Full scholarships, career mentoring, and direct pathways to internships with Logison and Arcadia Build. This facility is named after Eli Barrett, a veteran and mentor who taught me that success isn't about what you achieve for yourself. It's about what you create for others. In the crowd, Maris stood with Sophie, watching her ex-brother-in-law cut the ribbon on a future neither of them had imagined possible. Camden wasn't there. He'd filed for bankruptcy 2 weeks earlier and moved back in with his parents, who were living in a rental house while Vernon looked for work. After the ceremony, Kellen mingled with donors and officials, discussing expansion plans and funding opportunities. Noah stood beside him, fielding questions about Arcadia Build's next projects. "This is remarkable," Jefferson's mayor said. "The economic impact alone." "We're just getting started," Noah replied. "The logistics hub will be operational next year, and we're exploring additional educational partnerships." A reporter from the Kansas City Star approached with questions about Kellen's background. "You're originally from Jefferson County, correct? Born and raised. What brought you back?" Kellen looked around at the crowd, at the families exploring the academy's technology labs, at the children playing in what used to be his brother's parking lot. "Some people build to be admired," he said. "I build to be unbreakable." Later that evening, Kellen and Noah drove back to their hotel in Kansas City. The Missouri countryside rolled past in the darkness, dotted with farmhouse lights and small-town street lamps. "How do you feel?" Noah asked. "Complete. Any regrets?" Kellen thought about the question. About Camden, who would spend the next decade rebuilding his life from the ground up. About his parents, who now understood the true cost of choosing favorites. About Maris, who had made her choice and would live with the consequences. No regrets. His phone buzzed with a text from Talia. Camden Rhodes filed for bankruptcy. Public record as of this afternoon. Kellen deleted the message without responding. "What's next?" Noah asked. "We expand." Missouri was just the beginning. He pulled up a map on his tablet, marking cities and opportunities across the Midwest. Each dot represented potential, growth, the chance to build something lasting and meaningful. "Some people spend their lives trying to fit into a world that doesn't want them," he said. "I decided to build a world that does." 3 months later, Maris received a letter. No return address, but she recognized the handwriting. Inside was a check for $20,000 and a note for Sophie's college fund. "She deserves every opportunity." Maris stared at the check for a long time, then folded it carefully and put it in her safe deposit box. She never cashed it, and she never threw it away to IN Austin. Kellen sat in his office reviewing expansion plans for Logison's next 5 facilities. Talia knocked on his door with the quarterly reports. "Record profits again," she said. "At this rate, we'll be ready for the IPO ahead of schedule." "Good. The Missouri facility is performing better than projected. Local hiring exceeded targets, and community relations are excellent." Kellen nodded without looking up from his computer. "The Barrett Academy received another major donation today," Talia continued. "Anonymous, but the paperwork traces back to one of our subsidiary accounts." "What's your point?" "My point is that revenge is expensive, even when you can afford it." Kellen finally looked at her. "I'm not seeking revenge anymore." "No, Revenge was making them face consequences. Now I'm just making sure those consequences stick. Talia studied his face for a moment. And when do you stop? When they understand that actions have permanent effects. When they learn that some things can't be fixed with apologies or good intentions. And if they never learn, Kellen turned back to his computer. Then they never learn. Outside his window, Austin's skyline stretched toward the horizon, glittering with promise and possibility. Somewhere in Missouri, his family was discovering what life looked like when privilege and assumption were stripped away. Kellen had built his empire one decision at a time, one calculated move after another. He'd never forgiven, never forgotten, and never compromised. He'd simply won.